Lieutenant Riel's carapace gleamed under the cool, cobalt light of the Carnage command hub, each armored plate reflecting the soft hum of gravcom links and engine conduits. Outside the reinforced viewport, the crimson sails of the Morning Star drifted against the black velvet of interstellar space, a silent leviathan awaiting orders. Tonight, however, the flagship's usual confidence fractured. Something unprecedented had surfaced, a frightened message from an enemy long dismissed as primitive and disorganized. At the center of the hub floated a holo-projected transmission, flickering between grainy static and the weary form of a lone alien figure. The defector, once a decorated officer of the Andorus coalition, was gaunt, his cerulean skin marred by old battle scars. His pincered mandibles snapped nervously as he steadied himself, lips trembling with urgency. "Do not attack the humans. They will never let you flee." The words resonated like a bomb blast, silencing every conversation. Even the ever-chattering Gravnev computer stilled its update queue. Riel's 6 eyes narrowed. The Carnage had long considered humanity an inconvenient footnote in galactic politics, underdeveloped, divided, and no match for the precision of Carnage tactics. The coalition had fallen to human defenses 50 years ago, but that was an isolated conflict. At the edge of mapped space, this, Riel reminded herself, was the core worlds, and the humans here had decades to refine their weapons. Captain Varen, gaunt and poised in her immaculate cerulean uniform, rose from the Admiral's days. Her voice, calm but edged with steel, cut through the sudden hush. "Silas Tavar, formerly fleet commander of Andorus Bridge, claims our invasion plans are folly. He warns we cannot outrun their net defenses once engaged." The lieutenants and science officers exchanged uneasy glances. Admiral Tavar had been one of the most tactically astute minds of his day. His betrayal of the coalition still burned in the Carnage memory. A deserter, yes, but someone who understood Carnage strategy better than most. Riel cleared her throat. "Captain, we have no independent verification, and even if the humans possess some kind of gravimetric net, our frigates are built for speed. We can outmaneuver any static defense." Science officer Zeber tapped a console, summoning spectral calcium maps and grav field projections. "Lieutenant's right. Our vessels can achieve a top acceleration of 0.8 c in 3.2 seconds. Any stationary net would be useless if we come in at vector shift." "Are we certain it's stationary?" Varen challenged, leaning forward. The defector spoke of quantum dampers, fields that can extend and relocate in real time. A stationary net is one thing, a dynamic, adaptive field is another. As murmurs rippled through the hub, Riel felt a familiar tug of duty versus doubt. The Carnage creed celebrated valor over caution. To hesitate was to invite defeat. Yet her gut, tempered by years of close calls, screamed that underestimating an adversary was a form of hubris no warrior could afford. Varen held up a taloned hand. "Enough. I'm dispatching to probe squadrons to Earth's outer defense perimeter. The first will approach at sublight cruise, scanning for any gravimetric anomalies. The second, armed with illusion drones, will test breakaway protocols. If Tavar's story holds true, we'll see it within hours. If not," she paused, voice grim, "then we proceed with the invasion timetable at dawn." Riel met Varen's gaze. She saw not recklessness, but resolve. The defector had forced their hand. 2 hours later, from her command chair, Riel watched the holodisplay track the Wraith and its wingmates as they slipped into slipspace. Bound for Earth, the nav grid pulsed beneath her claws, painting their trajectory toward the blue-white orb with stark clarity. "Systems nominal," reported Ensign Sakar from the Gravskin station, his long antennae bent forward, quivering with excitement. "No disturbances so far. Gravnets should appear on sensor in 2 hours if they're deployed at the designated range." Varen stood beside Riel, lips set. 2 hours, she repeated. "Enough time to second-guess ourselves." Riel shook her head. "No, but long enough to steel ourselves for what comes next." Across the hub, the ghostly silhouette of Silas Tavar flickered on the holopad. Though he could not be summoned directly, instruments forbade remote comms. With a defector, transmission relays had captured his warning. Tavar's face resurfaced now. Green eyes haunted in the dim glow. Riel nearly heard his rasping. Breath, they chase not to destroy, but to trap. You will feel invincible until your engines stall and your defenses collapse. Earth's outer defense perimeter, just beyond the Van Allen-class rings that marked Earth's shadow zone, human sensor buoys lay in silent vigil. When the Karnch probes emerged, the buoys alerted Aurora Station, a high-tech orbital command post bristling with anti-access weaponry and science rays. Lieutenant Commander Elena Cross poured over the data streams surging in from the buoy network. Her crew, humans and alien liaisons from allied species, watched each blip on the display. A flurry of quantum-encrypted chatter crackled through speaker nets. "They're here," Cross said, voice soft, eyes cold. Across 2 decades of skirmishes at the frontier, she'd learned that true defense required more than shields and missiles. It demanded cunning. She tapped coordinates. "Activate sector grav nets Alpha through Zeta. Keep them pulsing at 0 point to see intercept rate. Once the probes hit, they'll think they've broken through, then we tighten the field." On a private channel, Deputy Director Holt Human pragmatically leaned in. "Admiral, our orders were to hold until they committed fully. Then we let them in close." Cross's gaze never wavered. "Exact. We don't want to destroy them, just delay long enough that we can decide if they're willing to parley instead of invade." Back aboard the Wraith, sensors flared red. Zebra yelled, "Grav nets detected. Multiple sources, dynamic fields converging up ahead." Reel felt the ship shudder as the synthetic hull began to warp. Under pressure, engines flared, sparking against the energy trap. "They've broken our thrusters," she shouted. "Engage emergency illusion drones." A chorus of mechanical drones separated from the hull, each trailing flickers of noted grav modulators. But as they attempted to corkscrew free the nets, reconfigured, snapping them back like steel cables. Panic rose in the control room, red warning glyphs flashing across every readout. Varn's voice cut through the chaos, even over the rising din of alarms. "Hold formation, prep for deceleration protocols. We cannot disengage until we understand the field's lattice structure." Reel's claws danced over the gravity matrix console, rerouting power to the hull's structural dampeners. The deck pitched violently. Consoles cracked and sparks flew. Then, as if the nets grew angry, the field pitched upward, compressing the Wraith until the bridge lights dimmed. A final jolt and silence. Aftermath. Captain Varn and Lieutenant Reel stared at the hologrid as the Wraith's HUD went dark. From the broadcast channel came only static, then the chilling calm of nothingness. Varn closed her eyes. "They're not annihilating us, they're restraining us," she whispered. Just as Tavar warned, Reel felt a tremor of disbelief. The Andrus defectors' plea had been more than rumor. They truly could not flee. Across the command hub, the Gravcom link crackled with incoming distress beacons from the lost. Frigates 6 captured, 2 more unresponsive. The Karnch fleet, poised for conquest, now faced an enemy whose greatest weapon was containment itself. In that moment, Lieutenant Reel understood the gravity of their predicament. The first step of invasion had already faltered, and Earth's silent, pulsing nets held every Karnch warship in their grasp, daring them to break free or to beg for mercy they had once denied. Varn spoke again, voice steadier now. "Chart every net pattern, analyze every modulation, frequency. We will learn their system and then we will adapt. But for now, inform High Command, we've met the humans' defenses, and they do not let you flee." Her words hung in the hub like a verdict, an admission of vulnerability that no Karnch captain had ever voiced. Out there, somewhere in the silent void, humanity's greatest warning had come true, and the Karnch would never be the same. The Wraith coasted out of slipstream at the edge of Earth's outer defense perimeter, stars wheeling overhead like pinpricks in black velvet. Lieutenant Reel stood at the forward viewport of the scout vessel, her 6 eyes reflecting the pale blue orb below. There was a paradox in Earth's beauty and the threat it posed. A fragile sphere encased in deadly traps of invisible energy. Below, in geosynchronous orbit, human outpost Aurora Station glowed softly. An artificial moon bristling with sensor rays, gravimetric projectors, and high-energy emitters. The station's silhouette was crowned by spinner towers that launched radar pulses into the void, each return signal dissected by banks of quantum processors. Aurora had been built for one purpose, to keep unwanted visitors at bay. On the Wraith's bridge, Chief Science Officer Zebra ran a final calibration of the ship's illusion drones. Her azure hands danced over holo controls, assigning each drone a unique neural signature to confuse human targeting algorithms. "We've programmed the drones to phase hop every 0.04 seconds, she said, voice taut with anticipation. "If our projections are correct, they'll slip through a stationary net, but if the field is dynamic, we'll need a second wave." Lieutenant Riel tapped a clawed finger on the tactical display. Hundreds of tiny nodes blinked into being around Earth sensor buoys and weapon platforms hidden among debris fields and defunct satellites. "They've anticipated our every move," she murmured. "Not one of our slipspace exit points is beyond a net's reach." Captain Varn joined them, her uniform crisp, her mandibles tightened in thought. "Report," she demanded. Zebra handed her a data puck. "Our probes confirm gravimetric distortions at exactly 3 million kilometers out. The hum of the nets is low and distinct until you're inside. That suggests active modulation. The nets are scanning for intrusion, then reconfiguring to close any gap." Varn nodded. "They're not content to defend, they mean to corral us." It seems Tavar's warning was more than rumor. She flicked her gaze to Riel. "Initiate approach. We'll run our drones in first, then follow in tight formation. Keep engines at full salvo. We need maximum thrust to punch through any envelope." Aurora Station. Command deck. Admiral Elena Cross watched the approaching Wraith on a curved holo display. Her posture a study in controlled calm. Around her, operators adjusted frequency filters and reoriented the grav projectors. The chains of invisible force hovered on her screens like SPECTERS. Cross tapped a datapad. "Quadrant teams Alpha through Charlie. Lock your emitters to the following modulation spectrum," she instructed. "When the Karnch drones appear, we'll let them think they've found weak points, then collapse the net on those vectors. No outside interference." Lieutenant Commander Mara Reed, head of the station's tactical division, spoke up. "Admiral, long-range comms just picked up low-frequency chatter from the Wraith. They're talking real-time link encryption. They sound tense." Cross permitted a small smile. "Good. Let them believe they still control the engagement. We'll tighten the field in 5. Prepare to fire the microgravity anchors." Back on the Wraith bridge, the bridge lights dimmed as Riel flicked the main thrusters to full discharge. Outside, the Wraith shuddered, its hull plates flexing under the strain. On the tactical display, a lattice of pale green lines formed around the ship, the first layer of the human net. "Drones launching," Zebra announced, in plumes of ionized gas. 6 illusion drones shot forward, each trailing a whirling halo of anti-grav nodes. They arched toward gaps in the green lattice, gaps the Wraith's scanners had marked as entry points. But as the drones crossed the threshold, the lattice shifted, the gaps snapping shut in a ripple of suppressed grav fields. The drones exploded in a silent flash as microgravity anchors fired, dragging their inert hull fragments back toward the net's core. Riel's claws bled pulses of panic. "They're adaptive," she shouted. "The field is adjusting faster than our programming." Captain Varn's voice was calm steel. "All craft hold formation. Fire our own anchors into the net's edge. If we can create new fissures, we might break the lattice on the edge of the green web." The Wraith's forward batteries spat out a volley of grav pulse anchors. They caught in the net's seam, momentarily warping the grid. Cavities appeared glowing, embers in the field just large enough for a frigate to slip through. "Now!" Varn roared. Engines flared as the ship lunged forward, tearing through the warped section. The lattice groaned, an audible hum vibrating through the hull before snapping back into place. Every console in the bridge lit red. Systems overload. Engines gouged power from the reactors in a desperate feed. The Wraith shook as the hull's integrity fields flickered. "Reverse thrusters," Riel barked. "Back us out of the lattice breach." With a wrenching lurch, the ship recoiled, leaving a patch of distorted net suspended in space. Debris and spent anchors floated like the ghosts of broken weapons. On Aurora Station, Cross watched the distortion bloom on her display, then fade. They broke through the first layer. She observed. "Activate secondary traps." She pressed a synthesizer pad. Deploy quantum dampers field density to 10 teraneutrons. Time compression in gap zones, 20 milliseconds. Let's see if they can handle that. The Wraith, 15 minutes later. Scanners now registered new regions of net. Pockets of near-infinite density layered with time-delayed pockets that slowed reaction times. The ship drifted closer, stubborn as a cornered beast. Reel studied the readings, then met Varn's gaze. They want them alive, to channel through a gauntlet, Reel said. They're studying our tactics and ours alone won't break these fields. Varn's mandibles flexed. Then we adapt, send all data to High Command. Ready the cruiser squadrons. At first light, we mount a full assault feint here. Reel push on the far flank. We'll stretch their nets so thin they tear themselves apart. Reel exhaled, resolve hardening. Understood, Captain. But be warned, she paused. Swallowing pride, the humans, they will not let us flee. Above them, Earth's silent skies pulsed with unseen chains. Resolute in their warning, the chase had only just begun. The morning star drifted at the periphery of Earth's geosynchronous ring, its sleek obsidian hull reflecting the glow of countless grav projector beams. Nearby, the destroyer Sarlin's hand lay crippled, its nutshells entangled in the invisible lattice that Earth's defenses wove like a cage. Captain Varn stood on the bridge of her flagship, framed by the panoramic viewport through which Earth's azure curvature rolled softly. Every panel and console glowed with data. The Wraith remained captive below, and 2 more frigates had gone dark. Lieutenant Reel hovered at her side. The defector's warning pulsed in her memory. They will never let you flee. Now, seeing her comrades ensnared, she felt its bitter truth. Yet surrender felt unathema. Karn's honor demanded that they fight to the last shell, not bow before a world they meant to conquer. Zebra's voice crackled through the comm. Captain, the quantum dampers are engaged at 85 teraneutrons. Our cruisers can't generate enough counterfield to break through without overloading the reactors. And there's a human flotilla on approach from the night side. Varn turned to the tactical holodisplay. It showed a crescent of human ships creeping out of Earth's shadow. Grav pulse lances glowing at their bows. They're not merely defending, she said, jaw set. They're preparing to push our remaining vessels into the nets and overwhelm us. On the starboard screen, a single message blinked in silent white text. Hail requested. Varn hesitated, then keyed. The response. The holo projector at the center of the bridge shimmered, and Admiral Elena Cross appeared, her posture rigid, arms folded beneath her dark uniform. Beneath her, the words Earth Defense Council glowed. Captain Varn, Cross began without greeting. Her blue eyes were steely. You have 2 options. Withdraw your forces and depart peaceful orbit within terrestrial jurisdiction, or face annihilation once the flotilla arrives. Varn's mandibles clicked. You've shown your hand. Your nets devastate our best ships. Your flotilla outnumbers us 2 to 1. So you offer us escape if we surrender. Cross's gaze flickered. Your losses are substantial. We propose a ceasefire and mutual non-aggression pact. We will transport your wounded and return them to your people. In exchange, you relinquish all vessels within our nets, and you depart our system. Silence settled. In the dim light, Reel saw Varn's pride middling with pragmatism. Accepting would save thousands of lives, but deliver Karn's vessels and their secrets into human hands. To refuse was to court destruction. From the engineering station, ZBAR's urgent voice cut in. Captain, we're detecting internal sabotage on the Sarlin's hand. 2 of our officers' evidence points to collusion with human intelligence. A murmur spread through the bridge. Varn's eyes narrowed. Traitors among us? She switched channels. All hands, lock down internal comms, seal compartments. No one moves without bridge authorization. As alarms chimed quietly, Varn turned back to Cross's hologram. I will confer with my command staff. Do not engage until I respond. Without waiting for acknowledgement, she cut the feed. The bridge went tense. Reel pressed forward. Captain, if we surrender the ships, the humans gain our navigation codes, our warp field equations, our battle strategies. The High Command will never forgive this. Varn folded her arms. And if we refuse, we lose every vessel here anyway. What remains our ministerial ships will be too small to effect anything but a token raid. We must decide between dishonorable surrender or pointless sacrifice. Zebra interjected from the science console. There may be a third way. Our probes from the Wraith recorded the net's core modulation. If we can overload the central node, sacrifice one frigate as an electromagnetic capacitor, we might fracture the entire lattice. It's high risk, but it could grant us a corridor wide enough for the rest to slip through. Varn's eyes gleamed. A kamikaze strike. Precisely, Zebra confirmed. The Sarlin's hand is already crippled. We retrofit its retained grav pulse anchors to feed back into the core damper. Detonate at 0-point crossing, and the net collapses for a fraction of a second at least. Real weighed the odds. The sacrifice of Sarlin's hand could save the fleet, but the humans were masterful at adaptive PD firing. They might snap the net shut again instantly. And even if the corridor held, the cruiser's thrusters might not accelerate fast enough. Before the humans closed in with grav torpedoes, Varn looked at the battered destroyer on the viewport. Sarlin's hand's hull was scored by laser scars, its crew battered but alive. Captain, Reel said, if we can guarantee the fleet's escape, it may be the only way to salvage our honor. Better to lose one ship than our entire invasion. Forced with a decisive nod, Varn stood straighter. Very well, Zebra, coordinate the retrofit. Reel, alert Sarlin's hand's commanding officer. We need volunteers for a sacrificial team. Almost instantly, a hatch seal in a distant corridor hissed over the intercom. A measured voice radiated. Captain, this is Commander Draxes of Sarlin's hand. We have anticipated this plan. Our crew stands ready. We consider this our honor-bound duty to secure your escape. Varn let relief and sorrow war across her mandibles. Thank you, Commander. Prepare for 0-point breaching. Sacrifice and escape minutes later. In silent preparation, the Sarlin's hand's retrofit was complete. Zebra fed the final calibrations into the ship's illusion protocol. Reel and a small security team sealed the bulkheads. On deck, Commander Draxes addressed his crew, 60 souls dressed in worn expedition suits. Karnch have never known true sacrifice, he said, voice echoing. Today, we prove we will die so others may live. Go with pride. Below, in the Morning Star's bridge, Varn's jaw clenched as she watched the telemetry. Trigger in 3, 2, 1. Now, a pulse of blinding light flashed inside the net's core. Gravitational readings spiked off the charts, then plummeted on every hull-mounted sensor. The green lattice tore apart in fractal patterns. The net collapsed outward, leaving a gaping void in space like a wound torn open. Engines to full thrust, Varn ordered. All ships, follow Vector 042 Alpha. Accelerate now. The cruisers roared as their reactor coils siphoned every ounce of power into the drive systems. Color trails algined behind them, stretching as they vaulted through the breach. Human weapons opened fire, but the corridor held just long enough. One by one, Karnch vessels gunned through the gap. Behind them, the Sarlin's hand drifted its own drive, fried in the sacrifice, dismantled grav anchors as petrified tumblers drifting away. Commander Draxes stood on the empty bridge, eyes bright with triumph and sorrow. Aftermath as the final Karnch ships slipped through the breach and vanished into the inky depths of space. Earth's flotilla braked just yards from where the lattice had been. Admiral Cross's voice came over an open, calm channel. Captain Varn, she said softly, I see you have chosen your path. A thrill of relief and guilt rushed through Varn. She keyed the comm. Admiral Cross, thank you. Your tactics were formidable. We have lost brave comrades today. Cross paused. War bears a heavy cost. Perhaps when your remaining forces reach Karnch homeworld, we can open a dialogue for lasting peace. Varn stared out at the void where Sarlin's hand remained their silent witness. I will carry your offer to high command, and I will honor my debt. Reel laid a cautious claw on Varn's arm. You chose to save us all. That is true honor. As the Morning Star received its captain's final nod and slipped away under cloak into the black, both pursuer and pursued learned a lesson. Etched in sacrifice, alliances broken in the void could be reforged not through conquest, but through the willingness to save even one life at the cost of one soul. And somewhere in the silent expanse, the first fragile threads of trust began to weave between two worlds once destined for war. The orbital docks of Aurora Station gleamed like a cluster of icy pearls against the inky backdrop of Earth. Under the soft hum of maintenance lasers and the muted thrum of repair drones, the captured Karnj vessels, once sleek instruments of conquest, now floated silent and half-stripped for inspection. Everywhere, human technicians in white exosuits moved among hull plates, checking circuitry and scanning for hidden weapons. Captain Varn's flagship, the Morningstar, hovered at the far end of Docking Bay 4, its hull freshly polished, but bearing faint gouges from the recent engagement. At her side stood Lieutenant Riel, watching the bustle with a mix of relief and unease. They had accepted Admiral Cross's terms: surrender the disabled ships, tend to their wounded, then depart on a clean break. Yet as the hours ticked by, both Karnj officers sensed that the true challenge lay not in the engine's roar, but in the fragile trust between two worlds. One, a tentative truce in the negotiation chamber, a circular room crowned by a lenticular holoscreen. Varn and Cross faced each other across a translucent dais. To either side, Karnj and human aides waited, silent. The chamber's curved windows revealed Earth's curve below, continents drifting through clouds like shades of jade and pearl. Admiral Cross broke the tension first. "Thank you for coming," she said, voice steady. "Our agreement stipulates your departure within 24 standard hours. Your ships will undergo a cursory security review, then preparation for slipstream jump. In return, you'll grant humanitarian access to our medical teams for your wounded." Varn inclined her head. "We appreciate your care for our people, Admiral, and we will honor every clause." She paused, then added, "Yet before we depart, there is more at stake than contracts. Karnj and humans have shared blood in this orbital dock. If we leave only as adversaries, that bond will sour the void between our worlds." Cross's blue eyes met Varn's 6. "Go on." Riel stepped forward, voice measured. "Our homeworld has long held the doctrine of supremacy through conquest. We came here expecting victory with minimal losses. Instead, we found mercy where we expected only death." She gestured at Aurora's bustling corridors below. "That mercy or refusal to destroy us carries its own power. We wish to understand it." A ripple of surprise crossed the human observers. Cross exchanged a glance with her chief diplomat, Dr. Leclerc. After a heartbeat, Cross nodded. "Then let us begin, not with treaties, but with dialogue. I propose a joint delegation, one Karnj officer, one human officer. You will tour our defense systems. We will tour one of your cultural centers aboard Morningstar, and in return, we will launch an exchange program. Science teams, engineering teams, even artists." Varn allowed herself a small, genuine smile. "An exchange program. Very well. Lieutenant Riel, will you lead our delegation?" Riel bowed. "It would be my honor." 2. Bridging to Hearts. Later that evening, Riel walked the corridors of Aurora Station with Lieutenant Commander Mara Reed as her guide. They passed labs where human scientists tinkered with microgravity farming pods and hydroponic gardens glowing with bioluminescent algae. Reed paused at a large viewport overlooking Earth's surface. "Out there, my people see cities as lights on a map," Reed said softly. "We forget sometimes how alive this world is." Riel studied Reed's profile, soft features framed by dark hair, eyes reflecting distant clouds. "On Karnj, we see only the void. Conquest distracts us from the wonder of life preserved behind a planet's thin veneer." Reed smiled. "Perhaps that's why your invasion shook us so deeply. Not because we feared your weapons, but because we knew what we would lose if we failed to show mercy." As they spoke, a small drifter, a Karnj engineer named Stoll, approached with a datapad. "Lieutenant, human medics are prepared to treat the wounded in Bay Delta. May I escort them?" "Of course," Riel replied. "Thank you, Stoll." She turned back to Reed. "Will you join us? For science's sake." "Yes," Reed laughed. Together, they walked toward the medical wing, forging the fragile beginnings of something new. 3. Remnants of war, seeds of peace. Meanwhile, aboard the Morningstar, Captain Varn found herself in the ship's cultural cenotaph. A vast gallery of Karnj art-etched reliefs depicting starbirth, songruns, ritual duels. At her side was Dr. Leclerc, flute-thin and curious, examining each piece. Your art celebrates conflict and harmony in equal measure, Leclerc observed. He traced a taloned hand over a bas-relief of two warriors weaving a net of light. Varin nodded. We believe that from conflict emerges a new order if only both sides survive. She hesitated. I fear our lesson was too late to save those we lost. Leclerc's gaze softened. Loss is universal, but sharing grief can also forge understanding. Perhaps one day, your people will learn to celebrate harmony without calling it the spoils of war. A distant chime echoed through the gallery, an invitation to the departure briefing. Varin offered Leclerc a respectful bow. Thank you, Doctor. I will carry your words home. Farewell beneath the stars at last. The countdown to departure began. Docking clamps released with gentle hissings. Technicians cleared the last of the maintenance drones. In the airlock, Real's delegation reunited. Human and Karnch officers shook talon and gloved hands, their grips firm with unspoken promise. On the Morningstar's bridge, the final coordinates to slipstream jump were locked. Captain Varin stood at the command dais, flanked by Real and the surviving officers. Outside, Earth receded, a jewel in the black. Admiral Cross's voice crackled over the open, calm link. Safe travels, Captain Varin. May our next encounter be one of friendship, not conflict. Varin enclosed the comm. Farewell, Admiral Cross, and thank you for not letting us flee until we found our better selves. As the ship's engines hummed and gravity wells collapsed into the slipstream aperture, Real closed her eyes. She felt the warp field grow round them, felt the tug of distant stars. Behind her lay Earth, a world that had held her people. In a cage of Mercian taught them freedom. In the calm, between one universe and the next, Real whispered, we will return, not to conquer, but to learn. And with that vow resonating in every hull plate, the Karnch fleet leapt into the void, bound not by nets of war, but by chains of understanding forged in silent skies over Earth.